court has adjourned as Bryan Kohberger was back in a Latah County courtroom where a judge heard arguments from his defense and the prosecution over multiple issues.
Kohberger is the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students in a home just off campus in November of last year. And just yesterday, the prosecution filed their intent to seek the death penalty if a jury finds Kohberger guilty.
And that's not the only issue that got brought up today. News Channel 7's Morgan Romero was in court in Moscow this afternoon. Morgan, what can you tell us about what happened in court?
You know, guys, court today was a lot quicker than expected. If you were tuning in last night to the news at 10 and today on the news at noon, we said that we expected today's hearing to last several hours because there were 4 things that they were supposed to discuss. Motions to compel, the first motion, the second motion, and the third motion to compel, as well as motions to release the grand jury records and transcripts of those proceedings, as well as a protective order over all of those records. And then the last thing was going to be a motion to stay or pause proceedings, but they only took up one issue rather than those 4 issues on the calendar. They took up the 2 first motions to compel. On that third issue, the state said it wanted more time to respond, and today, just filed in the cases of interest database, the judge granted that order. That third motion has to do with the defense wanting information on genetic genealogy that was done that led the FBI to build a family tree leading to Kohberger. So on all those other things that were not taken up, I'm told attorneys are working together on those issues. Again, to reiterate, that's the motion to pause proceedings and the release of grand jury materials. A court spokesman says that is not necessarily unusual, and there may not be any hearings in the future about those things if they work it out behind closed doors and can resolve those. So on those motions to compel discovery, that first motion, the defense is asking for records of training related to officers who did several witness interviews. The state says that is not material to the investigation. They don't believe that they're going to call those officers to testify during trial, and they say it's out of the scope of Idaho rules to provide that information, those training records on those Idaho State Police officers and their backgrounds. But the defense says it is pertinent. These were interviews and interrogations that were done with witnesses that then led them to certain evidence and led them to, of course, their defendant, Bryan Kohberger. That second motion to compel discovery has to do with investigative reports and conclusions from all cell phone analysis done by the FBI CAST team. So the defense is asking for all records and reports related to information that was used in the probable cause affidavit that led them to arrest Bryan Kohberger and has also been used in several search warrants. Along with that ask, they're also asking for reports, communications, and documentation from the FBI forensic examiner who changed the year of the white Hyundai Elantra that law enforcement was originally looking for and changed it to the year that Bryan Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra, they say, was made. So, few things are still working out. They say the prosecution isn't hiding these things from them other than the training records. They say the stuff from the FBI, they don't believe the prosecution's hiding it from them. They think that the prosecution is waiting on it, just as they are. So they're trying to compel the federal government to give them those documents. So the judge said today in an order, we are going to give the federal government by July 14th to provide these records to both the prosecution and the defense. The defense saying that all of this information is really pertinent to them providing a fair defense for their defendant, for Bryan Kohberger, as well as now that the fact that the death penalty is on the table, it makes it even more critical and relevant at this time. Again, that hearing today not lasting as long as we expected. They didn't take up all the motions that were on the court calendar. And we don't know if they will take those up in a public forum or if they'll continue to work on those behind closed doors. Back to you guys.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because of the shortness of today's proceedings, Morgan, if they had set maybe another date or something for a time to take up these other issues.
No, they've not. The only date that the judge gave today was that July 14th to compel the federal government, both the FBI CAST team and the FBI forensic examiner that looked at the Hyundai Elantra, to give the documents that the defense is asking for. And again, they don't think the prosecution is hiding those from them. They just want to really, compel the federal government to provide those and put a deadline on them, because it is bureaucracy that they're dealing with here.
All right, Morgan, thank you very much. And we'll hear more from Morgan coming up today on the news at 6. We'll also have reporting on KTVB.com.